Welcome everyone to Solidworks Live. Hey, before we get going here, if you like the content that we create here at Solidworks and you want to keep up with more episodes of Solidworks Live and Live Design, hit the subscribe button and of course the little notification bell right next to it. All right, go ahead. Seriously, I'll give you a second. All right, so what's on the docket for today? It's not a course syllabus. It's not a dissertation abstract. It's not a senior course project. It's just four of the more remarkable stories from the Solidworks community over the past academic year from the fields of STEM and education. And I can say with each one of these stories that we have on the agenda here today that you're seeing on your screen right now, you will be both inspired and excited for the future. We're going to hear from students and leaders in the field of STEM from all sorts of backgrounds and demographics. And luckily for me, I won't be alone in that. So joining me today as an honorary co-host is Marie Planchard. Marie, how's it going?
Hi, Sean. I am truly honored to be here, and I'm so excited to talk about these stories in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, with amazing students and mentors and some of our industry professionals from all over the world.
Absolutely. And it's always a pleasure to catch up with you whenever we can. So, Marie, tell everyone here on Solidworks Live a little bit about your role here at Dassault Systèmes.
Well, I work for the 3D Experience Works universe, which is really for little kids starting at age 4, all types of students in middle school, high school, community college, and university, and also our outreach programs with SolidWorks for Good and SolidWorks and 3D Experience for Good, along with makers and startups.
Yeah, well, we'll be hearing from a bunch of different community members from the general field of education, right? Including many individuals from FIRST robotics teams. And Marie, our relationship with FIRST, it's storied, right? It goes way back. Do you have any?
It's
way
Sean,
back.
It's about 20 years worth. We are a crown supplier of FIRST Robotics. And more importantly, we just have amazing mentors out there in our community. For
Absolutely.
example, we have Techwuman in Turkey that is really the push behind changing education in Turkey with support of a FIRST Robotics team, and also the Istanbul Regional. And then we have Betty Baker, our champion with the TC Robotics out of Wisconsin, and the Benzene bots. And here, Jara is our mentor. He's from the Delmia team. So we have employees, we have VARs, we have customers, all participating in FIRST.
It's awesome. And today, you guys in the audience, you're going to hear again from FIRST team members, mentors as part of these interesting stories that we're highlighting. So Marie, just the follow-up question to that, do we have any announcements to share on this Solidworks Live broadcast as it relates to our FIRST teams?
I'm really excited, Sean. You invited me. I had to give you something special. So this year, starting July 1st, we're allowing every FIRST team, whether you're FRC, FTC, FLL, the ability to get SolidWorks Desktop for free, and also our amazing SolidWorks Cloud apps. These are XDesign, XShape, and more importantly, Sean, you get the ability to collaborate, communicate, do task scheduling and management, which is so important when you're in a FIRST robotics competition. But remember, July 1st, we'll have registration open, and we're going to start fulfilling this summer because we have thousands of teams to help out.
That's so huge, right? And on SolidWorks Live, we saw some of these apps that we just displayed on the screen. If you are a member of a FIRST team, you're looking to check out, some of the new apps that you'll have at your disposal. July 1st, like Marie mentioned, you can go back and watch that what's new with that X apps episode. And a lot of the apps that you saw, the cloud-based apps that we just saw on the screen there, you'll get a chance to preview them, just like we saw in that little video vignette a moment ago. But today on today's episode, Marie, we're highlighting some amazing stories from the past school year. So are you ready to take in the first story here with us on the agenda?
I certainly am. I was introduced to this amazing, I think our youngest application engineer all the way from Armenia, thanks to my colleague Andre, who was at the Armenian Solidworks user group. So I am going to introduce you to a young student who just rocked the demonstration with SolidWorks Apps for Kids, our free STEM learning tool for children age 4 to 14.
Let's take a look. We are here on SolidWorks Live. I'm here with Andre, David, Vahag, and Aravik. How are you guys doing?
Great, thank you. Great.
All right, so David, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about the Armenia SolidWorks user group and how long it's been around.
Yes, thank you for the question, John. Last year, I started SolidWorks user group in Armenia. And now we have more than 100 members in our group, approximately 20 active members, and already we have 3 SolidWorks champions in our group. I want to share the main goal. The main goal of our user group are creating a strong engineering ecosystem in Armenia and engineering community. Also reviving our Armenian engineering traditions. Last year, I hosted 4 meetings, 3 meetings in person. And this year, I hosted one awesome meeting in April in COAF. COAF, it's Children of Armenia Foundation, charity foundation. And they're providing free STEM education in rural Armenia. So kids from 12 to 18 years attended to this meeting, approximate 60 teenagers and kids. And they all are excited about SolidWorks, and one of the main presentations is SolidWorks application for kids by Vahag, and I want to mention that Vahag, our youngest presenter and youngest member of our group. So I'm very proud of him because he did very well, and everyone was very impressed after his presentation.
He did awesome, by the way. He did awesome.
Yeah, it isn't. I know, Andre, you can attest to this too. It isn't every meeting. It isn't every user group meeting that you get to see a second grader presenting. I think it might have been the first time ever, like just in the overall network. So that's just it's just insane. I guess, David, as a follow-up, how did you introduce Vahag to SolidWorks Apps for Kids?
Last year I found SolidWorks application kit in 3D experience platform. So I tried by myself, and after that I asked Vahag, do you want to create 3D model? He said yes, and I showed mainly general tools and features in application, and after that he learned by himself with video tutorials in application.
And how did you come up with this idea for a presentation?
I planned meeting in December, and I knew that SolidWorks application for kids will be the main presentation for this meeting. Again, I asked Vahag, he wants to present. He said yes, I can try. And we together prepared presentation. He 2 or 3 times presented at home for us. And after that, in meeting, he presented this presentation.
And what was the mood in the room as Vahag was presenting? How did the attendees react?
Oh, you know, everyone very seriously listened to the presentation, and as a result of his presentation, that kids were very excited because they realized that even at such young age, they can start engineering.
Yeah.
Can I say something there too, real quick?
Absolutely.
Jump in here.
Yes.
So there was actually a technical glitch during his presentation, and he was able to dance around it, right? While he was presenting. Like,
wow.
So, you know, as a sales rep, right? As someone that I've been on demos, right? Many demos across my career at SolidWorks, right? Sometimes when a technical glitch happens, right? As a salesperson or as a technical, so you have to dance around that glitch sometimes, right? And it could be just, you know, because the computer went, you know, fried on you or something, right? So he had to actually dance around the glitch, and he did such an amazing job. He ended up getting an ovation from the crowd because he was able to get around it so quickly. He was thinking on his toes. It was really impressive to see.
That's huge. Yeah, I mean, everyone here, you know, we've all seen people give talks or presentations of some kind, and you know, sometimes, like you said, Andre, some things go wrong, and I've certainly seen cases where, you know, full adults really struggle to recover, or maybe don't recover from that. So to understand, Vahag, that you in second grade were able to do that is you know, kind of inspiring. You know, before we get to, I have a ton of questions for you, Vahag, but before we get to you, Andre, you mentioned just now, you know, you're a client executive here at Dassault Systèmes. You know, you're based in Massachusetts. What were you doing in Armenia over at a user group meeting?
So born and raised right in just outside of Boston, but I'm Armenian. My entire background, both mom, dad, you know, we're Armenian. We go way back generations. First generation in America, but our roots are in Armenia. So, you know, I grew up in the community in Boston, in the Armenian community. Went to an Armenian private school as a child, right? Armenian was my first language in the household before I even went to school, and which is where I learned English. So it's, you know, it's part of my culture, right? Armenia. As I was getting, you know, as I was growing older, I wanted to get involved a little bit in Armenia and see how I could make an impact there, right? Just outside of maybe donating my time here in the United States, right? Whether it's time or financially or whatever. So I met with David. I met David through a friend of mine who owns a business out there, and you know, we started talking, and you know, we kind of put our heads together, and you know, David had a great idea to start a user group, right? Because that's something that SolidWorks users love to have, right? Is user group meetings, right? Get together, talk about SolidWorks, share ideas, right? Things like that. So last year when he had his first meeting in April, I flew out for it and presented and just gave a little bit of a background on Dassault Systems and SolidWorks. So that's kind of how I got involved. And then I've just been staying on top of it, right? You know, helping David where I can. And then this year, same thing. He was going to go to that school, which is actually really cool thing that people, you know, should look into. COAF, COAF, Children of Armenia Fund. They build these high-tech schools that are after-school programs for kids of any age to come and learn for free. And they're in rural areas in Armenia where you might not get access to that type of education that you would in the city, right? So the first one was built in Lori. The village is called Lori. And it's a beautiful school. It's unbelievable. You should see the type of things that they provide for these kids for after school program. So when I found out the meeting was going to be there, I really wanted to fly out for it and be a part of it. So David asked me to come out and give kind of a motivational speech to the children there. And so that's how I got involved on this one.
Cool. So just give us a few highlights of what that speech was all about.
Sure. So the audience was, as David mentioned, 12-year-olds to basically adults, right? Young adults to 18. And, again, part of growing up in a rural village like that in Armenia, where you don't have a lot of resources, right? I wanted to convey a message to them that was basically, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how hard it might be, right? You can still find ways, right, to find success. You can still motivate yourself, right? Self-motivation, or using others as motivation, right? So what I was trying to do is show them how other people throughout walks of life had difficult childhoods, grew up in difficult areas, whether it was war, whether it was poverty, right? Broken families, whatever, and found ways to be successful. Right. And then I gave them some examples that were popular examples, right? Like the Cristiano Ronaldos of the world, or things like that, right? And then I gave them examples that were that really hit home for them, right? So actually, one of the gentlemen that was in the crowd grew up in that village, and then went and found himself as a successful person in industry. He, as a sales rep and a technical engineering sales rep, he went to Germany and Austria and worked for some of the largest recycling plants out there. And then he repatriated back to Armenia because he wanted to come back to Armenia, and he wanted to help the younger generation understand that there are opportunities for success if you put your mind in the right place. So I used him as an example for all those kids growing up in that village, because he came out of that village and was able to be very successful in life and came back. So those were the kind of examples that I wanted to leave those kids with, so that they understand that, again, life can be very difficult in so many different ways. And it's very easy to use that as an excuse to not find success or to motivate yourself. And I wanted them to kind of have a different outlook on life. And I didn't want to use me as an example because it's not fair. I grew up in America. Much different opportunity there than those kids have, growing up in a rural area in Armenia. So I wanted to use examples that would really hit home for them.
Wow, that is huge, and it's great to know that we have team members here from all different departments, right? Like you and I both work at Dassault System, but we're not in the same group. But we're equally excited, right, about inspiring others, especially our younger community members. And speaking of, I wanted to talk to you about how, of course, right, you're the star of our show here. So we know that you had the courage and obviously the knowledge to go in front of an entire user group meeting and give a presentation. But I'm going to start just by asking you about your interests. Like, have you liked designing stuff, or have you liked making things? Whether on the computer or, physically for a long time?
Դու շատ քաշ տղա ես, որովհետև համուսակությունից ունեցել ես կամ արտոնտելություն ունես ու հարցնում եմ, թե ինչ ես սիրում ծրագրեր օգտագործել, ինչն ես ծրագրեր սիրում, իրականում ինչ որ ձեռքով բաներ սարքել սիրում ես, թե չէ։
Իրականում
Խոսա ես կտակնեմ։
ծրագրի
մեջ ինչն ես սիրում։
մասը թե
Ծրագրի մեջ ասա ինչն է որը գալիս ինչ ես անում։
Դե մոդելներ սարքել։ Գունավորելու մեխանիկան, ֆոտոն ու պրինտելը։
So he says he loves all the parts, modeling, painting, mechanics, and printing, everything.
Wow.
He likes everything.
That's amazing. You're in second grade.
He says, I'm going to the third grade already.
Nice. We talked about how you presented in a room full of people who are much older than you. Something that many people we talked about earlier are too scared to do, and you're obviously very talented. What do you think you want to be when you grow up?
Ասում եմ շատ տաղանդավոր է, որովհետև համարձակությունից մեծ է, այդքան մարդու ելույթ ունենաս, որ շատ մեծերը վախենում են ամենից, ու դու շատ տաղանդավոր երեխա ես, որ այդքան կարծես անես, հիմա որ մեծանաս, ինչ ես ուզում անես, ինչ ես ուզում դառնաս։ He wants to be an engineer like his dad. But
awesome.
As mom, I would add that he's still only 8, and I guess something will change during the time.
That's a great point. I'm not sure I even recall what I wanted to be when I was 8 years old. So it could change. Maybe not. Maybe it will.
Yes.
I guess only time will tell.
In addition, I would want to say that there is absolutely no pressure on him on learning the program, on choosing his future occupation, because he's free to do anything he wants. We always say to him that you can choose anything you want and we will support you, whatever you do. But as he sees his parents are engineers and modeling all the time that is working at home, he's seeing the 3D programs and he's interested in it. Maybe his interest will change when he will grow up, but for now it will be a very good base for his future, even if he doesn't become an engineer. This will become very good start for him.
That is a great point. I can say personally, seeing skills that I never thought would have related to one another that, I acquired earlier in life, they come back up and you find a way to leverage them in unique ways for the world that you grow up to exist in, right? Which that will be a different world than the world of today. Vahag, what would you say was your favorite part about your presentation?
He says that he loved telling people something, that they were listening to him and he was introducing something new for other people.
That's so nice. And to your point, Aravik, that has nothing to do with engineering, nothing to do with design, right? That's just a great general life skill and value. So that's amazing to hear. Thank you all for jumping on. And Vahag, if you ever decide to do another user group meeting, I'll definitely have to attend. So again, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
For sure. Wow.
Really? Wow.
I just feel, I don't know about you, Maria. I feel proud. It's like when you hear about, first of all, just how you could tell everyone on that call was pulling for one another, supportive. We always talk about bringing people together. Even to seeing like the pride in David and Aravik, of course, in Vahag, but also Andre. Andre was super proud and was trying to get in those extra nuggets of how awesome Vahag did. And this idea that at user group meetings, it's not just adults, right? It's like they're mentioning 12-year-olds, teenagers, college students. So just fantastic.
I got to say, Sean, I was a user group leader, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, just to inspire students and to learn from commercial customers. The user group is such a strong community. And if you're not part of a user group and you're on live.solidworks.com, you really need to join one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this story was just unbelievable. And this next story that we have, again, we have more stories to come here. The next story that we have is one that actually I was very much involved with, and it uses some of the technology that you, Marie, mentioned being available very soon to first teams around the globe. So we're going to hear from Mel and Greg of Techwuman. And Techwuman is a UK-based engineering consultancy and STEM advocacy group. And we're going to hear about how they, along with the help of many global SolidWorks champions within the SolidWorks Champions program, expose over 100 students to STEM for the very first time this past school year. So let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Mel and Greg, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely, as always. So first off, for everyone here in the audience today, why don't you tell us a little bit about Techwuman?
So Techwuman is an engineering consultancy company. We specialize in design engineering. This is mainly for the critical national infrastructure. So when we say this is the water supply, the gas supply, the power supply, and we design physical security products that protect these sites. So this could be things like doors, buildings, cages, access covers that are in the ground, things like this. That's one half of the company. The next half of the company, Mal's going to explain.
So we're committed to promoting STEM at grassroots level within primary and secondary schools by delivering STEM activity days to promote STEM careers, but also help address the industry skills shortage. Yeah,
so we dedicate half our time to promoting STEM to the next generation.
And since September 2019, we've delivered to over 3,000 pupils.
Yeah, and these pupils are aged from 4 all the way up to 14 years old.
Wow. I've known you guys for I guess a couple years now. And one of the great things that you've done for years, I know, predating even, our friendship, is run these STEM activity days. Can you tell us a little bit about these?
Yeah, definitely. The STEM days are delivered over a full school day, with everyone getting the chance to compete in a variety of fun, practical challenges designed around STEM concepts. So the children get the chance to discover, explore, and learn, but also whilst introducing terminology and job roles such as design or a manufacturing engineer or an accountant, to break really the stereotypes associated with those careers.
Yeah, so whilst they're at the activity day, they also get the opportunity to talk to Techwuman STEM ambassadors. So these are great role models for the children as well. Currently, we've got more than 60 ambassadors and over 70% are female, which is great for us. The team really promotes diversity in terms of ethnicity, gender, age, everything like that.
So what we're trying to do is to change mindsets really of what being an engineer is, whilst contributing to improve the engineering industry by addressing the skills shortage gap and the aging workforce as well.
Yeah, so like I said, our ambassadors, they're at different points in their career as well. So some might be at university studying, while some might be like fully fledged professionals in their career that have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years. And they're in a variety of different STEM industries as well.
But it's really rewarding at the end of the day when pupils can tell us like what STEM stands for, different careers that they've learned throughout the day, but also that they want to be an engineer like me, for example. It's such a good feeling to know that you've succeeded in inspiring someone into STEM.
And then also, aside from like STEM activity days, we also promote like apprenticeships as well, traineeships, support while people are applying to go to university, as well as studying abroad in countries such as New Zealand and Australia. We've got a lot of volunteers as well, so help people with their CV, interview skills, different courses that they can take, just finding the right job that suits the person.
Wow, you guys get into so much. And we actually met, for everyone watching at home or at the office, we actually met as part of your inclusion in one of the first ever classes of the SolidWorks Champions program. Like you were one of the first ever inductees. Can you tell us a little bit about, what being a part of this program has been like for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we thought being a SolidWorks champion would be a really good opportunity to keep up to date with SolidWorks innovations, but as well as all of that, it's given us the opportunity to meet like-minded people from around the world, have a platform where we can talk, whether it's about SolidWorks or whether it's about our day-to-day careers, and tips and tricks. And it's really nice to be involved in something like that.
Yeah, it's always great meeting new people that do the same sort of thing as you do, and you can always learn new things with SolidWorks. There's always new functions that come out every year. There's new little tips and tricks you can learn. So finding that out off other people that use it as well is really great.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, one of the points of pride, I would say, in us creating the SolidWorks Champions program is it's brought us so much closer to so many different, power users and community members around the world, like you guys, right? And in some cases, we've been able to do some pretty special projects, and we were able to put some together. We had an idea, the three of us, to put together one of those pretty special projects with the help of fellow SolidWorks champions at the end of 2021. Can you tell everyone at home a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so we delivered a one-day introductory course, that's what we're calling it, on SolidWorks. So this was for 100 pupils throughout the UK. We chose year 9. So year 9 in the UK is 13 and 14-year-olds.
And this is just before they're about to choose their GCSE options. So it was a great time to introduce something that may not have thought about before, so design engineering. The software itself, you don't really hear about it until you're in the industry or you're studying in the industry. So it was really nice to give the children the opportunity to use the software, to speak about design engineering, for them to learn what SolidWorks is, and what is all it does.
And just show them like all the different uses for the software as well. So all the different industries that can be used in, all the different functions. So they all got a license. They all got to use the software. Every single pupil that took part got the chance to use the software. They got to learn about the functions, got to design some products on there as well, which was great for them. And then they got to hear off ourselves. And then we also included some of the champions as well. This is champions from the UK and champions from around the world as well.
So the champions in the UK helped us deliver the day session, but the champions around the world, we got videos and we got photos from them. We got models of how they use SolidWorks, and it's really promoting the diversity in SolidWorks, the users that use SolidWorks, but the different people behind that as well.
Yeah, and we got them to compete in some of the little challenges as well. So there's a bit of competition about it. So you could be the quickest designer, the best designer, and we got to judge it. And it was nice seeing how quickly some of the students picked it up as well, and how soon they got to grips with a lot of the tools and functions as well, which was great.
I think the aim of the course was to inspire the pupils and to break the stereotype around engineering and design engineering. And none of the children knew what design engineering or SolidWorks was at the start of the day, but for them to leave at the end of the day and know what SolidWorks is, know what design engineering is, but can also use the software was a great achievement for us.
Yeah, we felt really proud that we've been able to teach them in such a short space of time, and they've got so much out of it, and it's so rewarding for us.
We had a design project at the end of the day where they had to design a watch for the visually impaired. So they planned it, they then designed it on the software, and we got them to make a prototype and then explain to us the features that they had used on the watch. One child actually had a parent who was visually impaired, so for us to include things like that into the curriculum as such for the day was really special.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, there's so many different facets of that, right? You think about how we're taking the knowledge from SolidWorks champions from around the world, the experiences, and at a very important age, right? Inspiring, what you said, 100 students who, to begin those days, those activity days that were, champion powered by Techwuman, they had never seen or probably even heard of 3D CAD, and by the end of it, they're understanding the human aspects of design at such a young, important age. So as a follow-up question, what was the demographic breakdown for the students that you saw, and overall, what were some of their reactions to the day?
So 82% of the attendees were female. It was really important to break the stereotype associated with design engineering. So for bringing girls along, and some of them were quite hesitant to begin with when they knew that they would have to be working on the computer and software. But as soon as they were working on the software, they were really excited. You could see the creativity of them come out of them really, and they were able to like explore their different ideas and improve their designs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the children at the start of the day, I think almost 100% didn't know what design engineering was. They hadn't heard of Solidworks before. They hadn't heard of a career in design engineering or what it meant or what was involved. So showing them the software and talking to them and getting them involved and showing them, oh, this could be a career that you could do it was really rewarding. And I think a lot of the feedback we found, almost half of the children said that they'd really consider that sort of role in the future, which is great for us. And I think when we talk about the background of some of the children, some of the schools we went to, we chose a couple of schools in like lower background areas where they don't get the chance to take part in things like this normally, or they don't like aspire to go to university or aspire to have like high achieving jobs. So letting them have a go at this sort of thing is really good for them as well. It like pushes them on and makes them want to achieve these sort of things as well.
And we were explaining to them how you get to be a design engineer, for example. So what pathway do you need to go down? And it's not always the typical university route. We were talking about apprenticeships. We were talking about different work experience placements that they could go on as well. So it was really opening their eyes to different things.
Well, Mel and Greg, thank you so much for jumping on here on SolidWorks Live. Before we go, where can everyone go to learn more about Techwuman?
So we've got a website, which is www.techwuman.co.uk. We've also got all forms of social media as well. So we've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can just use @Techwuman to find us on there. You can direct message us on there if you've got any questions.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. We'll be happy to help in any way.
And you can also follow us we keep up to date with what we've been doing, the sort of services we've been offering, the campaigns we're involved in as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, Sean.
What a cool story. So I think one of my biggest takeaways of that, seeing some of the iPhone taken footage, I'm guessing Mel or Greg was capturing that when the other one wasn't busy assisting a student. Right. Was that, your first exposure? It's like you think back to your first exposure of engineering software, like we all have different stories of that, but their first exposure, these kids were seeing it real time. It's like, these schools that Mel and Greg went to, they didn't have, I'm sure these laptops in the computer lab or these towers, like they probably weren't like these souped up engineering machines, but they just log in right there. It has their name in the top right corner, just like, their social accounts, and they can just get ready designing with an app like XDesign. I thought that was such a cool thing to see.
I did too. It's such a lower burden of entry to the school to have these cloud apps, and you just start designing. It's great. That I love XDesign. I love XShape because it's so easy to show students how you can design.
Absolutely. So thanks to Mel, Greg, all the champions, like that photo that we displayed with all the the headshots and all the countries' flags represented. Those were all actual champions that, in some way or another, whether it's being there in person or sending along a helpful video talking about, what you could grow up to be if you went down the path of design and engineering, like they all participated in some way in those STEM activity days. So just thank you to all of you for being involved. And just a reminder, in the live chat, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to ask questions. We can answer them about any of the conversations that that we've been having. But as we move along here, Marie, this next story, right? It's one that you're readily familiar with, right?
I'm really, really familiar. This next story is about a formula team that went from IC to all electric at my alum WPI, and it is the school that my husband is a professor at, and also it is where he's been a mentor for the formula team. And without a lot of resources, it's a truly inspirational story on what they were able to accomplish.
Cool. Let's take a look at that. Hey, David, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. So, for starters, although I'm sure many of our viewers recognize your name, tell us a little bit about your connection to the SolidWorks community and your role at WPI.
Okay. I've been involved in SolidWorks some way over the last 25 years, I would say. I started as a solution partner. I then started to write some books, and I used it at work a lot of times. I then decided to semi-retire and go to the dark side and go into academics. And for the last 14 years or so, I've been teaching at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, or WPI. And there I teach a variety of engineering classes and courses. One is specifically a CAD class that I use SolidWorks. And other classes like heat transfer and thermal, I try to then incorporate SolidWorks from a simulation standpoint into those classes. So I found that a lot of people, thought SolidWorks was just CAD. Mm-hmm. And then they realized, oh my God, I can actually, use it in other classes to kind of understand why am I doing all this math, and then to run some of the simulations and things. So that's how I kind of got involved with SolidWorks at WPI.
And regarding the WPI FSAE team, just a bit of history there. Like, how long has it been around? Just tell us a little bit about that history.
Okay. WPI has been involved with SAE for probably about 25 years, off and on. And the last, I would say time that they really got involved was about 15 years, about 2 years before I got there. And namely was Baja. I was always intrigued with cars, and I had a couple of students. At that time, we were using another software package. And they said to me, my God, SolidWorks is so cool, so much easier to use. Would you be an advisor? We'd like to go into Formula versus Baja, which then means that we really have to create all new models, all new this, all new that. But they felt that this was the way of the future as far as learning and getting more students involved with design and analysis. So about 14 years ago, I started my first formula team. And for the first year to 2 years, it was a bumpy ride. We only had about 4 to 5 students. We never really went to a competition, but we, said it would be so cool to represent WPI one day at a formula competition. And then about 12 years ago, we entered our first formula competition. And formula has what they call static and dynamic events. A lot of people think, oh, it's just driving a car. No, it's not. Formula SAE has about 260 pages of rules and regulations. So when it teaches an engineer to follow standards, which most students, they wanted to like redesign the world, but they have to design to a standard so we could even move on to the dynamic aspects. And so it was a great learning experience for myself and for the students. We went to competition. there was 120 teams around the world, and we placed, I believe it was 73rd that year. And we were very, very happy. And then we continued to go back each year, and each year we placed higher and higher and higher. And that's all I wanted to do, was to basically, if I could just improve a little bit. Matter of fact, the provost said to the first year, "Are you going to go win?" And I said, "I just don't want anybody to get arrested, and I want to bring all my students back in one piece."
It starts simple.
Win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been doing formula for, like I said, 12, 13 years in the combustion area. About 2.5 years ago, when we placed 31st, I said, you know, there's more to formula than just combustion engines. And I'm looking at a lot of my seniors graduating, and they weren't prepared really, because a lot of the knowledge of a traditional mechanical engineer is now getting into systems, now getting into electrical components, and working with electrical, computer science majors, robotic majors. So what I ended up doing was working close with SAE as the club, but then I created senior projects. And the senior capstone projects was to work on the car with the club. So it was a combination of the club and academics to bring something now to competition, because it was much larger than just the club. We needed the school from a support standpoint. So about 2.5 years ago, I went to the dean and the provost, and they both looked at me and said, "Do you know how much work this is? And plus, you actually have to work with other departments. And sometimes we don't like to work together."
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting. A lot of the senior projects at a lot of the colleges, you'll have all the mechanical people doing mechanical stuff. You have the electrical guys doing electrical stuff. But the cross-pollination of departments senior year really doesn't happen. And that's when it really should happen. So I got the okay from upper management, and I got another electrical professor to say that he would support us on the electrical computer science side. I got a professor from the robotics side, and he said, "Well, I'll support you from the systems side." So we said, okay, we got some support. Now we need students. And it was remarkable. We got about 25 seniors doing the senior capstone project. We have about 70 students in the club at any one period of time, but they're freshmen and sophomores and juniors. And what we've been trying to do is to do the mentoring aspect of the seniors, so we can have a continuous knowledge going through the program. And we decided that it had to be a 2-year build, because there's no way that we were going to take a combustion engine and a car that was designed from a frame standpoint to then meet all the rules and specifications of an electric formula vehicle. So the first year, we pretty much did a lot of frame design. And we worked with the electrical and computer science and robotic majors, saying, give us an envelope. Tell us what you think it's going to take from a frame standpoint, because the frame's the foundation of the vehicle. And so we had to kind of give our best guesstimate on design of the frame, the pickup points from a structural analysis standpoint to get the frame welded, the suspension somewhat put in place. So then when we had something, as the electrical guys were working on selecting what type of batteries, what type of system we're going to be putting in, and then realizing, okay, because of COVID, a lot of this stuff isn't available, or we might have to go to Europe, to a Czech Republic, and get something that the school says, oh God, the duties are going to kill us as far as bringing it into the United States, and we won't really understand whether we have it in time or not. So
and that's just to interrupt for a second there. I mean, that you think about the challenges, right? You gave yourself a 2-year window to go from combustion to all electric, and that's daunting enough, right? To make such a shift, but doing it in the era of COVID, like you said, we had supply chain issues, I'm sure with access to be able to build and collaborate together. So yeah, it's quite remarkable in that way too.
It was the students that really did it, because the first year we couldn't get into school. We couldn't go into the labs to actually lay things out. So a lot of stuff was done at home, where the students were, or off campus, guesstimating where things would be, because all our suspension parts for the car, because we wanted to reuse some things. And WPI has a very limited budget compared to other schools. Essentially, our budget is less than 10% of some of the budgets of the schools that come from Europe or come from Asia. Their traveling budget is bigger than our whole build budget for 2 years.
Wow.
So we, had to rely a lot on sponsorship or alum, but at the same time, that first year that we were doing the mechanical aspects, we weren't even allowed into the labs to meet together. So it was a lot of meeting online, talking, doing file management. We love PDM, okay? The students up to that point never used PDM, but we had to, because there was so many students making revs, but they weren't talking to each other because they weren't in the same space. So everything was remote, and that's the last thing a student really wants to do, is do PDM. But then they realized how important it was when you have such a large group, and you literally cannot talk to each other, and communication sometimes isn't their strong point. So that helped us substantially the first year. And then the second year, when we were going back on campus, we kind of met each other for the first time as a team. And we had new members. And then the old members that graduated, we had to figure out what was their concepts and ideas in the design. So hopefully, again, the PDM with the file management helped. But we lost the seniors that did the first year design. So we had to make sure documentation was very, very important and key. Any of the analysis was backed up through simulation, through flow, and we had to justify it to make sure that when somebody picked it up, they could understand the assumptions, because the old garbage in is garbage out. And, software makes pretty pictures and colors, but it doesn't show you the assumptions that somebody has made. So if you make a change to it, another big difference that we did was that a lot of times with our older cars, we did a top-down change versus a bottom-up change. And a bottom-up is much nicer if you're starting brand new. So hence, a lot of students realized, yeah, we can maybe try to use older files, but if we make changes to them, it's going to have all these different ramifications that we're going to see errors that we just can't, address.
So inevitably, what was the outcome with the all-electric vehicle? I mean, how did it place in competitions?
Surprisingly, really good. We were going to leave a day before, and we decided, well, we can place in the static events, but we never got this car started. So we decided to go up to competition that morning, because that night we thought we could get the car started. And we did. And it was the first time we actually started the car. And that might sound strange, but there was a lot of teams that went up there with just components and not the car, to learn and be mentored by the judges to talk to the other teams. So we ended up passing, and at competition is broken up into two main areas, static events and dynamic events. The static events are events that teaches engineers how to follow product specifications, how to write reports, and then how are they going to answer questions from judges, and then show them where they have to be able to take anything on the car apart to show them how we met those specifications.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes them design the car so it can be taken apart easily, and they have to put it back together easily. And throughout the year, we had to write reports to the judges so they could see what we're doing and justifying things. As you know, rules and regulations can lead to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that it was our first year, so our interpretation would be the same as the judge's interpretation. So during the static event, we didn't have to then say, oops,
Yep.
I guess we interpret it this way, you interpret it that way, judges rule, and we're out.
Mm-hmm.
So the static event was really, really, I think for us, every year we go, we learn a lot of things, presentations. We also had to justify how we built it, the money we spent, how we would start up a startup company and sell this product. So again, engineers are not used to doing this. This year, we actually have a business majors that's going to help us with some of the business presentations and to help us with costs. And, so the static events went quite well. And one of the static events is to get in and out of the car within 3 seconds. Once you have all your fire protection on, your wristbands on and stuff. And we never did that because we never had the car together. And wow. It worked wonderful. It worked wonderful. So then we passed the static event and we went to the dynamic event because we didn't go up there the day before. We actually got the car started and running. And we did really, really well in all the events. We had a hiccup in one of the slalom events, which then we resolved. And if we had some time, I think, with running that car, we would have eliminated that hiccup. It was a very minor electrical program niche that we just had to make. And so we walked away with the IEEE Award of Excellence for the first year. And we also placed 4th, which I was just hoping to get a car up there that we could get some information about.
Yeah.
And it gave us, I think, a really good foundation, and it excited the school. I was ecstatic, and the students were ecstatic. So we did very well for our first time, more than I ever thought we would have done it.
That's amazing. It makes me want to go back to school hearing about all of this, especially the part where you talked about integrating different departments, integrating, the electrical engineers, putting more computer science into it. And also I think integrating a business major. Like I think it's so great that, you're sort of taking it outside of the niche or domain of strictly mechanical. I just think that's so awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for jumping on here at Solidworks Live. For those of you watching at home, you can actually read a lot about this story on the Solidworks blog. So definitely check that out. But David, thanks so much for jumping on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Wow, I can't believe they did that during the pandemic era. Like that seems so difficult to accomplish.
It does. And Sean, I overheard an awful lot of Zoom calls throughout the past couple of years.
I bet.
And just the constant determination, we're going to get to this competition. We're going to get to this competition. It was just so amazing to see their success.
Yeah, I bet it was probably, you think about the feeling of being in person and having those sorts of meetings, being able to actually, touch parts together, assemble things together, not having much of that experience, like those sort of virtual touch points, I'm sure were so integral to, as much as you could, making it feel real, like you said, that you would get to an endpoint. Yeah, that's huge.
A great story.
For sure. And we have another story here, at our fourth story here today, and it centers around what I think is a pretty pivotal question, which is, how do we aim to preserve our history when it's already been partially or totally lost to time? So 6 student teams from around the globe, they embarked on a challenge of recreating in immersive 3D, as we always do, storied pieces of architecture from history. So Team USA, which I was mentor of, we took on the challenge of recreating the Roman Colosseum, which was incredible. So I caught up with Shumik and Elena, who were 2 members of the Massachusetts-based first team, Team Storm Gears, as well as their team mentor, John Eager, to ask them about the challenges as well as the triumphs that they experienced on the way to creating a very impressive model. Let's take a look at that. Elena, Shumik, John, welcome to Solidworks Live.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for having us today.
Absolutely. So we are here today to talk about the Living Heritage Project. But before we do, John, you're a mentor of the first robotics team that Shumik, Elena, and others are on, which is called Team Storm Gears. Can you tell us a little bit about Team Storm Gears?
Yeah, so Storm Gears is a team made up of about 50 high school age students. We design robots based on the challenge that First Robotics gives us each year. This year has been a tougher season for us because everything was kind of a restart after the 2 years with COVID. We lost, even though the world stopped for COVID, the students kept aging. So the students that would have been our juniors and seniors ended up, they've already moved on. So we had a very young season, or young students this year starting off. As a mechanical mentor of the team, I get the privilege of all sorts of things like shop safety and how to design, how to creatively think of designs, all the way through the manufacturing process. So it's a great program. Recommend it for anyone who's interested in robotics or anything STEM related.
Yeah, and I was super excited to see, for those of you watching at home, I was the mentor of Team USA here for the Living Heritage Project, which we'll surely get into here. To see that you guys actually were a first robotics team made my job a lot easier, because I figured you guys were well familiar with design and engineering, which, from the design perspective, that's something that we definitely got into here with this initiative. So this next question is really for anyone. How did you first hear about the Living Heritage Project? This is actually a question I don't know the answer to. It's not just for everyone at home. How did you first hear about the Living Heritage Project? And if you can think back, what really excited you about it?
Yeah, so because we're a robotics team, we do use SolidWorks to design our robot parts and in CAD. So we do receive regular emails from Dassault Systems on different software challenges, programs that they have. And so one of these days we did get an email about this project, and we're a history loving team. So we were interested by that. And also during the off season, we got the email kind of in the off season. We wanted to start practicing our CAD skills because we knew we needed it for the season itself. So we jumped at this opportunity to practice in a creative way.
Awesome. And of course, you guys wound up designing the Roman Colosseum, which is no small feat. And first of all, you have to sort of figure out what is the Roman Colosseum, dimensionally and a lot of other ways. So Elena, this question's for you from the research perspective. What was both, I would say, interesting and frustrating, and maybe it's the same thing, I don't know, interesting and frustrating about finding information about the Roman Colosseum?
For me, I already have a solid background in Roman culture and the way of life because I take Latin, but I found it still super interesting, like learning about the various design features of the Colosseum. Like, for example, they were able to flood the Colosseum to hold mock naval battles, which showed how skillful they were at engineering. And they did this all before like they had modern technology to enable them to have more efficient ways to build and design it. And they had to build it all by hand. They didn't have machines. It was super frustrating trying to find information since it was so long ago that a lot of it has been lost to time, and that we can only learn about it through what little has survived, which is written accounts, the structure itself, and like through simulations of what happened.
Yeah, I remember talking with you guys throughout the weeks, and I think one of the most remarkable things that I recall, again, just going week to week in our check-in meetings, was just the amount of different types of media that you had to go off of and had to sort of piece together to get an accurate depiction in 3D of the Roman Colosseum. Like you did it, but it definitely did not seem easy at times. Shumik, you, Alina, and the rest of your teammates, you leveraged both XDesign and SolidWorks 3D CAD to make this design of the Roman Colosseum. Can you talk a little bit about how XDesign played a role in some of your designs?
Yeah, so our team, we heavily utilize the collaborative cloud aspects of XDesign to efficiently split our project among multiple teammates. Since we had 6 or 7 people, 6 or 7 people, we wanted to, at the start, we wanted to divide our team up since the Roman Colosseum is so big into different parts. And because XDesign is cloud-based, we can easily say we have one team doing one type of column and then another team doing another type of column. We can easily collaborate on that and then upload our final projects into the final assembly. So in that way, we really utilize the cloud compatibility of XDesign.
Yeah, and for the modeling respects, I know, like, for example, like even making some of the columns, I know that was something that you used XDesign for, as well as many of the other components. How else did you guys use the platform, even if it's beyond or differentiated from the design apps?
Yeah, so after we completed this project, I just dabbled around with experimenting by putting our own robot parts into XDesign and testing basically whether we could use XDesign in the future as a team in our robot season, whether it's a viable solution. And I still found that, again, the cloud was really useful because not all of our teammates have the laptops or desktop hardware to run SolidWorks. It does take significant hardware. So XDesign could be really useful for us next season in that way.
Yeah, that was pretty huge. And that's definitely, we have the new 3D experience SolidWorks offers, which contains a version of SolidWorks connected to the cloud as well as XDesign. And that question comes up, right? It's like, well, why would I use XDesign? It's like kind of the knee-jerk question. It's like, why would I use XDesign if I have SolidWorks in this package? And like you said, Shumik, if you're on the go, or maybe you don't have the most souped up laptop or machine to go on, you can still get parts designed, insert them into the assemblies, as well as a lot of other reasons. But that's certainly one use case. But speaking back to the Living Heritage Project particularly, and again, this could be answered by anyone, but what were your favorite parts about the project overall?
So my favorite part about the project was that it really brought us together as a mechanical sub-team at Storm Gears. And we managed to find a community of people on the 3DS platform where everyone could share their projects, ideas, and advice. And when I first saw our final project released on the Living Heritage website, that was just a great feeling because we just worked for months on it, and to finally see it was great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super gratifying to see that. I didn't even model it, but to be able to see it on the website, like you just mentioned, was really gratifying. And I think it, for me, was a really proud moment as well. One of the cool things for everyone watching here, one of the cool aspects of this overall project is that each team has the opportunity in a couple of weeks to head out to France, really for, in some ways, the final moments or the capstone of the project. So we'll celebrate the project, we'll present on it, So I'll actually get to meet all of you in person in a couple of weeks, which I am super excited about. And as Elena just mentioned, if you go to the link here that we're showing on the screen, you'll be able to see the Roman Colosseum as Team Storm Gears modeled it, as well as all the rest of the projects from Living Heritage. So once again, Shumik, Elena, John, thank you so much for tuning in here on SolidWorks Live. Thanks, Sean.
We're the whole team is really proud of what this group has done, and really happy to see it exposed, to the public like this. It's a great opportunity for everybody. Awesome. See you soon. Thanks.
Yeah, that was a really interesting project to be a part of. And I remember when I heard about it via email, we had our first couple meetings, after I accepted the role as mentor. And I mean, technology wise, it was sort of Sean, get out of the way after, one or two. So that was pretty neat.
The students really, not only the American team, but the teams around the world did amazing job. And I really invite everybody here to take a look at some of those other projects too, besides the Coliseum. It makes you feel like you're there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's 6 projects in total. They're all viewable in 3D, immersive 3D. Like, the reason I say that is because, I mean, the models look great, but you can also select those little sort of pulsating dots. And if you select them, it'll give you details about that specific area of that work. So you learn, you see some beautiful 3D imagery, so if you go to solidworks.com/LHP, like Marie mentioned, you can check out all of those. So we're right at the end here. And thank you to all the participants in this episode. But
thank you.
As we head out here, Marie, we'd like to share a couple of links, right, related to what you saw here. So what can visitors see with these 2 links that we see here on the screen?
So besides robots and vehicles, we are also into a whole lot of other teams that we sponsor, rockets up to the Kármán line to solar boats. So if you look at solidworks.com/student sponsorships, we are there for teams all over the world. And also, as you saw at our first episode at the user group in Armenia, SolidWorksAppsForKids.com, both for your individual student who wants to learn to have some fun STEM, and also for the classroom.
Awesome. And Marie, thank you so much for being my co-host on this episode. I think it's the first time since 3D Experience World that I had a co-host, and based on this experience, it won't be the last. So thanks again.
I loved it, Sean. Thank you so much. And thank you to our users.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
So guys, if we take a look at the next announcement here, the Project of the Year contest. This could be for you if you've created an awesome project using Dassault Systèmes solutions like SolidWorks, right? Over the course of this year. So you can check out this link that we see here on the screen for full details and judging criteria. The submission deadline, I should say, is June 19th. So that's coming up. But of course, right, you still have time. So definitely check out that link. Next announcement we have here, we talked a little bit earlier about one SolidWorks user group, of course, Armenia SWUG. And there, of course, like Marie mentioned, many others around the globe. A couple of our group leaders, Brad Meter and Adam Abernacle, are actually embarking on a crazy 2,200-mile motorcycle trip to tour the southeastern U.S. and give SolidWorks tech presentations at 6 different user group meetings in a week. So that means there'll be 12 unique SolidWorks presentations. There'll be food, fun for those in person, prizes along the way. So for full details of that, visit the URL that we see here on the screen to tune in with all that's in store. And finally, now this is something I've been waiting to announce for a very, very, very long time. We have something very special coming out for you guys. It's called the Titan Trifecta. So many of you are aware of the partnership that we have with the team over at Titans of CNC, but now we are taking that partnership with Titans of CNC to the next level with our live streaming program. So without further ado, let's roll the teaser for that.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you cannot miss our explosive Titan Trifecta edition of Manufacturing Live, Live Design, and SolidWorks Live. Back to back to back. We will be broadcasting from Titans of CNC headquarters in the Lone Star State on July 19th, 20th, and 21st. Get yourself over to live.solidworks.com to add each of these episodes to your calendar now. Get ready for the Titan Trifecta. See you there.
I can't wait. So make sure, of course, you like, subscribe, to keep up with these awesome streams. We're currently, as you can imagine, in the process of coordinating these, making sure we have great content for you guys on each of the streams in the background. Again, we can't wait to show off our collective tips, tricks, expertise, just all around cool stuff with the team at Titans of CNC. Those of you who have seen them over the years on TV, on YouTube, already they're true powerhouses in the world of manufacturing. And sad to say, but that's all we have here for you today. It's been a great show. Thanks again to Marie. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks to you guys for watching. Thanks to the SolidWorks marketing team, our crew of Kramer. And we'll see you next time. Take care.